Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Louise Houghton.
Hello and a warm welcome to the show. Before we kick things off, we want to give you a little taste of what's in store over the next 30 minutes. Face Off, makeup artist Maria Malone-Guerbaa and her famous faces. DreamWorks, a patron of the arts, builds a spectacular building for top collections. Getting Vocal, featuring a German singer who can hold two notes at the same time. Is it an iceberg? Is it a ship? Or is it a cloud? Whatever you liken the newest art museum in Paris to be, it is the topic of conversation amongst architects right now. This week, the 11 art galleries inside opened to the public, and we weren't the only ones who turned up to see it finally finished.
The new Louis Vuitton Foundation stands in the Bois de Boulogne Park in Paris. People are lining up for the new attraction, fascinated by its grandiosity.
Paris is the cultural capital, and we're lucky to get to see the work of a great architect here. A building like this in such a big park is really something special. I'm from Munich with the English Garden. They could build something like this over there too.
The museum was designed by Canadian architect Frank Gehry. It's made of glass, wood and steel and took 7 years to build. It contains 15,000 metric tons of steel, twice as much as that of the Eiffel Tower. With 11,000 square meters of floor space, it's reminiscent of a ship. The architect himself has likened it to an iceberg.
I'm particularly proud of it, yes. But I'm self-conscious at this point because I designed it 7 years ago, right? And my world my sensibilities have changed. I've morphed into new things. So I think there's a lot of things I would change based on my new idea.
The man behind the building of the museum is French businessman and billionaire Bernard Arnault, CEO of the luxury brand LVMH. Implementing the design proved to be tough in the beginning.
We simply didn't have the technology to make this building a reality. A team of more than 100 highly qualified engineers spent 2 years just developing the technology to then turn the artist's vision into a reality.
And the results are convincing for many visitors. Now Paris has one more attraction for tourists. The museum's inauguration in mid-October was attended by the likes of French President François Hollande, Karl Lagerfeld, Anna Wintour, Marion Cotillard, and Sofia Coppola. The Louis Vuitton Foundation has 11 galleries showcasing Bernard Arnault's collection of contemporary art. There are works by German artists Gerhard Richter and Thomas Schütte. And some objects were created especially for the foundation, like this gallery of mirrors by Danish artist Olafur Eliasson, or this work by American Ellsworth Kelly. Frank Gehry says he wanted to create a new kind of museum.
The classical galleries are passé for the world of today's art. And many art directors, museum directors, haven't understood that yet. A lot of contemporary artists would rather be in spaces that are more fluid and they can engage with it.
Artistic director Suzanne Paget was responsible for curating the collection. No easy task, as the architecture can be overwhelming. But Gehry says he gave Paget her space.
I think you got to give her time to learn to play the instrument. I told her I made the violin, she's got to play it. And I think over time, as she understands the potential and where she can put stuff and how she can interact with it, and the freedom that she doesn't have to worry about insulting me or ask my permission.
We want visitors to experience the quality and the singularity of this place. That's why everything plays off of the architecture of the building.
For many visitors, the spectacular construction is the primary attraction. The museum's art comes second.
Bernard Arnault had the ambition to set an architectural milestone. He has the means and, with Frank Gehry, the talent and the financial wherewithal. This construction is incredible.
In Paris, we haven't seen a building of this kind since the Centre Pompidou.
The opening was a major event. I think it'll take a few years until people can come to value the art collection too.
Bernard Arnault has fulfilled a dream in opening the Louis Vuitton Foundation, while also creating a landmark. And it'll eventually be a gift as well. In 50 years, the building will be handed over to the city of Paris.
Louis Vuitton is such a known name, but I wonder how many people would actually recognise his face. Well, those faces that are well known to the masses can often be seen in pictures all over the internet, but not in the way that this next lady posts them. You see, Irish makeup artist Maria Malone-Guerbaa actually makes her face up to appear as if it's someone else's. This clever face painting technique has become her speciality and something that many people have been trying to learn for the recent Halloween celebrations.
Hi, I'm not Morgan Freeman.
No, it's Irish makeup artist Maria Malone-Guerbaa. She specialises in portraying celebrities. And she limits herself to only using theatre makeup to do it. Unlike many others, she doesn't use any facial prosthetics. Here she's working on the mouth of Elvis Presley.
The thing I noticed about Elvis's mouth, he had a kind of a downturn to his mouth, and his top teeth row was kind of prominent when he smiled, and then he had quite a nice full bottom lip. So it's just picking up those essential characteristics from a famous face and then superimposing it onto your face.
She paints the teeth onto her lips to shift her facial proportions. Maria devotes at least 4 hours to recreating a face. Here she's transforming herself into British actor Anthony Hopkins in his seminal role as the cannibal serial killer Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
So how did she get into this line of work?
Well, I like to, change my face. And it became a little bit of a challenge, a personal challenge. So I loved pencil sketching and charcoal and everything, so I loved that kind of medium. And then I combined it with my passion for makeup and character makeup, theatrical makeup.
For some years, Maria has been posting her work on Facebook and the online photo and video sharing service Instagram. She has about 70,000 followers, including a number of celebrities.
It was a bit of a shock to post up some work, and Rihanna saw it, the singer, and then she started to follow me. So she was one of my wow celebrity followers. And then loads of companies and TV stations were getting in contact, and lots of people wanted to see me transform in front of the camera or transform someone else.
More and more of her fans are wanting to learn the art of this kind of makeup. Some want to amaze their friends at parties or Halloween. In addition to working on film and theatre productions, Maria also runs teaching workshops like this one in Dublin.
I learned about blocking out my eyebrows because I have quite dark eyebrows, so I always struggled with that. And I've learned a lot more about shadowing and things.
It's Danny Trejo from Machete Kills.
It's nice to learn a different technique, and as a group we all learn something from each other, which is fantastic.
During the workshop, Maria transforms a 16-year-old high school student into the late South African President Nelson Mandela.
I like optical illusion, so I discovered that once I blocked out the eyebrows, I could start to just draw on the face from a picture. So I often use my phone and I'll Google an image that I like.
When the day's workshop is done, Maria hits the streets of Dublin to confront strangers with her creations. Nobody realises she's the face behind all of the pictures.
It's an oil, I'm not sure. That's me.
Maria is keen to expand her craft. She's always on the lookout for new faces.
At the moment, this gentleman, David Beckham, so he looks like a really fun face and challenging, but I think I could, pull it off. And he's known worldwide, so it gives me better recognition than the people understand who I'm after doing.
So perhaps David and Victoria Beckham will soon be joining her fan following as well.
Well, from face paintings, we turn to a man known for his pop art portrait paintings, Andy Warhol. He didn't just work with people, though. Throughout his career, he was also commissioned to work with car models. The last major and unfinished series of Andy Warhol's work is currently on display in Singen in Germany.
Fantasy cars, real-life models, and their depictions by American pop artist Andy Warhol. He was hoping to tell the story of the car in 80 works, but only managed to finish 35 before his death in 1987. The exhibition Andy Warhol Cars revisits his project. It's the first show for Annalena Bruns, the new director of the Mack Museum in Singen in southern Germany.
We've got these real pop art colours and the cars. If you take the streamlining, for instance, it's state-of-the-art design and technology. Andy Warhol was from the advertising sector. He reduced the form completely and then adopted it for himself. It's a very interesting dialogue between the car and the work of art.
In 1986, the German car giant Daimler commissioned Andy Warhol to create the series Cars to mark the 100th anniversary of the invention of the automobile. It was the first time that Warhol, who rose to fame with his interpretations of all American goods such as Coke or Campbell's Soup, had worked with German products. Renata Wiehage is the director of the Daimler Art Collection, which owns the works.
What was new in Warhol's work was that he showed how a product changed, its historicity. Not Coca-Cola staying the same over 40 years. He told the story of the car. What was very unusual and new is that he looked at the transience of products.
Andy Warhol is not the only artist to have been inspired by the car. Many others have too, with very different results. The book Baby, You Can Drive My Car presents a short cultural history of the car in art. There are works by the French painter Toulouse-Lautrec in 1898 and others by the Italian futurists of the 1920s, or by contemporary artists today.
What's interesting about the question, how do I depict a car, is the difference between a painting that always captures one moment, freezing it in time like a photo, and the car which is in flux, which represents a temporal process. And the artist has to reflect upon how to capture this latent movement in this still picture.
It's very common for car companies to appoint artists for PR purposes. This video features the Swiss artist Fabian Oeffner, who was hired by the Italian sports car giant Ferrari. German car manufacturer BMW started its Art Cars series in 1975, and it's still going strong today. Artists such as the American Roy Lichtenstein, the German A.R. Penck, and once again Andy Warhol were just some of those in its employ. Warhol had no problem being hired by corporations. This was part of his understanding of art, not a sellout.
He considered himself a business artist and even a business partner. To him, it was important not to choose motifs that had something to do with his personal tastes or his own life. He wanted to work with motifs that were the taste of the masses, that everyone liked and wanted to have.
Ever since its invention, the car has been an inspiring motif for all kinds of artists, even for Andy Warhol, who never even owned a driver's license.
Now, sustainability is a buzzword here in Europe, and restaurants are the latest establishments doing their part to help the environment. We visited a not-for-profit restaurant in Denmark where the idea of recycling uneaten food is becoming a big success, even if the idea of it doesn't actually appeal to everyone.
This food would normally have landed in the garbage. But Copenhagen's Roop and Stub restaurant serves what farmers and supermarkets would otherwise throw away. Chef Søren Grimstrup freezes leftovers, preserves vegetables, and turns fruit into chutney. Nothing goes to waste.
The ingredients we get aren't bad. They've just been left over here in the system because we, the consumers, didn't want to buy them.
The restaurant is located in a cultural centre in Copenhagen's Old Town. The building, constructed almost 300 years ago, is one of the city's oldest. More than 100 volunteers work here without pay. One of them is Elizabeth Geertje Palgrim.
Sometimes I feel that people, they just talk a lot. And then it's nice to feel that you can do something.
These so-called asparagus potatoes have just arrived. They're simply too big for farmers to sell. 40% of the ingredients here are donated. The rest are purchased. Every day, Søren Grimstrup spontaneously creates a new menu.
I wanted to make focaccia because I have so much salsa on hand.
Today's main course is mussels with French fries.
Normally, you'd plan a dish which requires specific ingredients. Here we might have an idea and a main ingredient like potatoes or mussels, out of which we create a dish. If we're missing a few ingredients, we have to find something to replace them.
A group of friends founded Roop and Stub in 2013 with just €1,200 in startup capital. The restaurant's goal was to do something against food wastage. Sophie Sales is one of the founders. Reportedly, a whopping 1/3 of all the food grown in the world is thrown away.
Some of us used to work in kitchens when we were younger, and we saw a whole lot of food being thrown out. So we sat together and talked about how is it possible to collect all this food before it's wasted.
Word has got around, and nowadays shops with leftovers get in touch. Today, a cafe owner personally brings fresh coffee beans that he doesn't need.
It is a good, good cause, and it gives a good, a good karma to give it.
Other restaurants have taken up Roop and Stub's idea. For example, In Stock, which opened this summer in Amsterdam. There are quite a number of cafes and catering businesses around the world that convert rejected groceries into mouth-watering treats. Roop and Stub is busy in the evenings. On offer today, bread nachos, a Roop and Stub invention that finds a use for the many donations of bread it gets. The alternative, focaccia with parsley pesto. The main dishes are reasonably priced, and Roop and Stub is packed in the evenings. Among the guests are politicians, tourists and students.
It was really good.
When I feel too full, it feels good because I know that I saved a lot of food.
The restaurant serves small portions to keep waste to a minimum, but second helpings are free.
We tell ourselves that if we have to close this restaurant because no food is surplus food anymore, it's been a success.
But it doesn't look like that's going to happen soon. For the time being, Roop and Stub will keep serving good food for a good cause. Its profits go to charity.
Now, last up today, let's all rub our bellies and pat our heads at the same time. Can you do it? It's not that easy to do two things at once, so you might be even more fascinated to hear that German singer and voice artist Maria Hefele can sing two notes simultaneously. Take a listen to this.
I'm fascinated by what you can do with the voice. There are so many things that are somehow unusual that you can only do with the body and the voice, and I think that's great.
Anna-Maria Hefele is an overtone singer. The 25-year-old can use her voice to seemingly create two tones at the same time. Starting with an undertone, she uses special mouth and tongue movements to filter out sound frequencies. To the ear, it sounds like two separate tones.
What's special about it is the sound experience. You deal very intensively with breath, voice, and body, and there's a lot of factors that come together.
At the end of September, Hefele, who is studying to become a teacher of music and dance for elementary school pupils, uploaded a video to YouTube demonstrating her polyphonic singing. The video has been watched over 6 million times.
I was amazed that so many people were interested. It's totally cool when you do something like this and it's popular, and it gives the whole thing a totally different reputation. And it can help other people who work with overtones.
Here she's holding a workshop for beginners and more experienced singers near Salzburg, Austria, where she studies. Some of the participants have even come from Italy to learn from Anna-Maria Hefele. She accompanies the lessons on an instrument called the orgophone. Her parents, both instrument makers, built it for her. It's meant to help people hear overtones more easily.
You can create the overtones relatively quickly, but it takes a bit before you hear the overtones you're singing. It's different for everyone. Singing overtones and enjoying it is something anyone can do within an hour. But it takes longer until you can sing them with volume and control.
Some people have made it into a career, including the band Hunhur Tu, who were successful in the US and Europe. Western avant-garde composers experimented with overtone singing in the 20th century. Composers such as Karl-Heinz Stockhausen used it to create totally new sounds. In the 1980s, this type of singing was employed as a relaxation aid, especially by adherents of the New Age movement, who hoped it would induce trance states.
The New Agers were looking for a way inwards. They looked for meditation methods, and in that context, saw overtone singing and learning overtone singing as an esoteric training method.
That's not my world, but basically it's the reason why people who are familiar with overtone singing see it in more of a meditative context.
Anna-Maria Hefele wants to establish overtone singing as serious music, accompanied by instruments that previously have rarely been used in classical concerts. As the child of instrument makers, she says she has a natural love of unusual sounds.
With everyday things, there's already so many people who are good at them. I'd rather do something that's not so well known and then really get to the bottom of it. There aren't as many rules about what you can and can't do. You have a lot more freedom.
She explores that freedom with her band Zupazonos, which is working on its debut album. They hope it will help Overtone singing reach new heights in popularity.
Well, that brings us to the end of the show. So until next time, thank you very much for watching and goodbye. Cheers.